Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. First thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way. I do take a deconstructivist point of view because of Dark Knight Returns, because of Watchmen. If you've read those two comics, it's hard to go back.
Você sabia que apenas 5% dos brasileiros têm conhecimento em inglês e desses apenas 1% tem fluência? Escolhemos o curso A Jornada do Autodidata em Inglês para aqueles que têm interesse em destravar a fluência de vez. Não perca tempo, clique no primeiro link da descrição e descubra mais. Bora pro vídeo!
Lampooned in that film. There's a line in the movie that says, I feel like I was in a dream where all I cared about was the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. That is a line in that movie.
That's hilarious.
I'm literally, and I'm like, that's awesome. Like, I think that I was like, okay, my wife was like, she goes, that's cool, right? Like, that's cool that they came after you. I was like, it's 100% cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see when there's like such a strong reaction to certain things, and especially amongst like really wild hardcore fans, because there's hardcore like particularly.
Trust me, I know.
Yeah, well, you also face it because you cover these genres, you cover these subjects that are iconic. Superman, Batman. I mean, just those alone.
No. And by the way, that's a lifestyle choice for a lot of people. It's not a movie.
Right.
It's not a movie. It's not like if I made a romantic comedy, you'd be like, okay, that was fun.
Right.
Like the people who love, and by the way, I love that they feel this passionately. I'm not, in no way would I criticize that, because I feel I live the same life, right? Because like for me, it's morning, noon, and night. But so for those guys, it's not just a movie. And so you have to, on some level, you have to acknowledge that this is their religion, you know, and they feel strongly about it. And by the way, the truth is it's my religion too, you know, so I tend to get in trouble because of I do take a deconstructivist point of view because of Dark Knight Returns, because of Watchmen. If you've read those two comics, it's hard to go back, you know, to like, you want to, and it's because I care that I want to take them apart. Like I want Batman, like people are always like, well, Batman can't kill, right? So Batman can't kill is canon. And I'm like, okay, well, the first thing I want to do when you say that is I want to see what happens. And they go like, well, don't put him in a situation where he has to kill someone. I'm like, well, that's just like you're protecting your God in a weird way, right? You're making your God irrelevant if he can't be in that situation. He has to now deal with that.
Yeah.
You know, if he does do that, what does that mean? What does it tell you about? Does he stand up to it? Can he survive that? Right? As a God, as your God, can Batman survive that?
I never thought that was canon, that Batman can't kill. But
well, for a lot of people it is.
That seems ridiculous given the circumstances in which he operates.
Well,
and all the weapons
don't read
that he
the
has.
comments right now. Don't read the comments.
Yeah.
This
seems ridiculous.
Well, I mean, and you know, there's this huge so in Dark Knight Returns, there's a scene where, and I copied it kind of in Batman vs. Superman, where he grabs the M60, he busts through the wall, and he grabs the M60, and he's like, the guy's like, in the comic book, he's like got this kid, the mutant has this kid with a gun to his head, and he's like, I'll kill him, I swear I'll do it. And Batman says, I believe you. And he shoots him straight in the head, because it's like a no-win scenario. It's like the Kobayashi Maru of, you know, the Kobayashi Maru is that, in Star Trek, it's that test they put Kirk through where there's a no-win, right? Because they want to see how you'll react, right? So they say, okay, we're gonna make a scenario, a test scenario where you don't win, where there's no way to win. And in that situation, we find out what you would do in a no-win situation, because if you're going to be the commander of this spaceship, you're going to be in situations where, you know, it's life or death, and especially when there's no tricking it, right? There's no tricking death in this case. And the famous thing with Captain Kirk is he he went and hacked the machine and made it so there was a solution.
Yeah.
And so that was his response to the no-win situation, was create a scenario where he wins, which is cool, which is a cool character, you know, that's a cool character move. But like, that's kind of how I felt. That's what they would say, don't do that to Batman. Don't put him in a no-win situation because we don't want to see him lose. Like, we can't see him lose. He has to maintain this godlike status. And that's what the cool thing about Frank Miller. Frank Miller said, fuck it, I want to see who this guy, like if a guy, so you're saying to me that I've got a gun to this kid's head, you're Batman, there's no move, there's no trick, there's no throwing the batarang, there's no a dust ball to distract me. Like, I've just got to pull the trigger and I kill this kid. So you're saying in that scenario, Batman, what's Batman supposed to do? Right?
Right.
Yeah, he's going to lay down his gun. What's he going to do? Like, it's the guy says to him, I'll do it. I swear it.
I believe you is perfect.
Yeah, I believe you. And
I believe you. Yeah.
You know, so I'm just like, that's where like Frank Deakins takes Batman and just tears him in half.
Yeah.
And you've got to now come out the other side of that. And Batman is still the hero. Batman still does the right thing. He maintains his code, he doesn't change, but like our perception of him changes. And I think that's like I have run afoul of, but a lot of the fandom who have gotten to the same place I have with the characters where they need to test them to like, and I feel like the characters, it's been my experience that the characters have not let us down. Like, these myths have not let us down. You put them to the ragged edge into that scenario and they come out the other side and you're like, yeah, there's a reason why Superman is Superman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's like, he can handle it. He can take it because he's so iconic. Like, you see like the red S, you go anywhere in the world with that Superman t-shirt on, anywhere. And you say to any kid, like, what's this? Oh, that's Superman. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, that means something. That's like fucking cool.
Well, not only that, it's one of our first ever superheroes.
Literally.
Yeah. I mean, just think of the name. It's so unoriginal. Superman.
It's the most, you couldn't think of that today. That's
It's
not
so
a,
ridiculous.
You can't do that today.
I know. If you tried to come up with a Superman today, everybody, shut the
Superman?
fuck up.
That's horrible.
That's your guy?
Yeah.
You know, come
Yeah.
on, man. We've got so many different interesting
But
characters
that's why the Trinity, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, are so powerful, because they're literally, obviously, the origin concept, right? Wonder Woman,
Literally, yeah.
Batman. Batman is the only anomaly because he's like a Batman. Like, what does that mean?
Right.
Like,
He doesn't even have powers.
yeah, he's just like he's half bat. Like, what is that?
Just got a lot of money.
Yeah, he's got a lot of money. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like my favorite thing we did in Justice League, where Bruce says that line about like when Flash says like, "What's your power?" and he's like, "I'm rich." I always thought that was cool.
Kind of crazy that no one decided to genetically experiment on a Batman. Like make
a Batman.
Yeah, for another version of Batman. Like take a guy and hit him with some Wolverine juice or whatever
Yeah.
the fuck. And
Other
turn
animals.
Just turn him into a superhero.
Yeah.
Instead of have him just be a rich guy, give him some crazy genetic mutation, something that they do to him that turns him into something.
But I think that is the thing. I mean, not to that extent, but that's the thing that Frank does, and that's the reason why I wanted Affleck, because like to me, Batman's a big dude, right? Affleck's 6'4", you know, he's like a legit big dude, and you know, like in the boots are like 2 inches, so like he's literally almost like, you know, 6'6" in the costume. Like when he comes out in the costume with that little bit of, I mean, we put some muscle on him, and then there's a muscle suit under the suit, and he's like, he's like legitimately a scary looking thing. You know, he's just like standing there, and you're like, holy shit, like, dude, the chin is so insane in that cowl. You know, I mean, look at him. He's like, you know, I took that picture, by the way. You know, he's like legitimately. Like, that's Batman to me. I mean, I don't know, like, what, you know, because
Christian Bale was a great Batman.
He's a great Batman, but he's still like, you know, 5'10", You know, it's cool. I mean, not to be. I'm not.
though that
I'm not
does
being,
mean something.
I'm not being rude
Was
about
Batman
like,
giant in the comic books?
in some of the like in Dark Knight Returns and in Frank's comics and like you know in the classics he's a pretty big dude. You know, he's always been pretty thick. In Dark Knight Returns, if you look at Dark Knight Returns, you know, like there's a line like where he's trying to hold someone's gun and his finger can't get in the trigger guard because he's so big. You know, like where he's like, you know, I like things like that, like where you're just like, he's like, he has this genetic like gift of just being this big fucking dude, and other than that, you know, his parents were murdered in front of him, and he's also like a billionaire. So like that weird. Like you want it to not be just one of those things, right?
Right.
It needs to be all of them in order for him to really to do what he can do.
But if somebody really wanted to fuck around with the genre today, if he had all that money, wouldn't he invest in some wild genetic engineering that turns him into an actual superhero?
Yeah, so it's fun. Well, I think that's the real. That's the
Batman
fun of
fans
it.
are pulling their hair out.
Yeah,
right
like they
now.
don't like
What
that. They
are
don't
you saying? You
Batman's on
can't kill.
steroids. You know,
Not
like,
just steroids.
Not just steroids. You wish it was steroids.
I'm
no.
talking something way crazier.
Well, it's funny because like I did that scene, like there's that scene. I think it's in. I don't think it's in the. It might be in the theatrical, but it's definitely in the director's cut, where like he wakes up and there's some chick in the bed with him that from the night before. Because like I always say, like you know, Batman fucks to forget for sure. You know, Batman's a drunk for sure. You know, because like he has huge trauma, right? Like, and I think that like you know, you wonder why he's a playboy. It's because like, you know, like anybody, like that's a common. You know, fucking forget is that's a real thing. That's a way to deal with trauma. You know, and I think that like, I have that, there's that bit, he like wakes up and there's like just painkillers on his bedside table and he just like pops them and drinks some wine. I'm just like, you know, to me, that's Batman. You know, like he's got a Maplethorpe above the bed. He's got his glass house and he's just like, he has an aesthetic that's like clean, but like, that's all he does. That's like his life, you know, like
the thing about Batman, the modern versions of Batman, the Miller Batman, your Batmans, what's interesting is that now superheroes are these flawed, like very distressed characters.
Sure.
Like the Watchmen is the best example.
Watchmen is all trauma.
It's all trauma, and they're all crazy.